Imagine a world shrouded in eternal twilight, a land where the sun is just a forgotten legend. In this world, the only light comes from the lumens, small, enchanting creatures that glow with a gentle warmth. They are the living stars of the earth, illuminating the villages and paths, keeping the shadows at bay. Among them lived Lumi, the youngest and smallest of all. While his brethren shone with brilliant, confident light, Lumi's glow was a mere flicker, a timid pulse that was barely visible. He was often teased, called a dusk bunny or a shadow spark, and his heart ached with the desire to shine as brightly as the others. He'd spend his nights trying to concentrate, to push his inner light outwards, but it would only sputter and fade, leaving him feeling smaller than ever. One fateful evening, as the lumens gathered for their nightly ritual of brightening the land, a terrifying event unfolded. The Great Light, the ancient, mystical source from which all lumens drew their power, suddenly went out. It wasn't a slow fade, it was an abrupt, deafening snuffing out of existence. A wave of absolute darkness swept over the world, a blackness so profound it felt solid, tangible. Panic erupted. The once glowing landscape was plunged into an abyss of fear and confusion. The Lumen elders, their own lights now weak and trembling, gathered in a somber council. After hours of desperate consultation, they declared the Great Light lost, its energy extinguished forever. Despair settled over the community like a cold, heavy blanket. The world, they believed, was doomed to an endless night. But amidst the widespread hopelessness, Lumi felt something different. Deep within the suffocating darkness, he sensed a faint, almost imperceptible pulse. It was like a distant heartbeat, a tiny spark calling to him from far, far away. He tried to tell the elders, his voice a small tremor in the vast silence. "It's not gone," he whispered, "I can feel it. It's out there," but they dismissed him. "It's just an echo, little one," they said sadly, "a memory of what we've lost." The other lumens, now huddled together in fear, paid him no mind. The calling, however, grew stronger in Lumi's heart, a persistent whisper from beyond the treacherous shadow mountains. He was terrified the journey would be perilous, filled with unknown dangers lurking in the suffocating blackness. He would be all alone, yet the thought of his world and his people succumbing to this eternal night was even more terrifying. With a deep breath that barely stirred the air, Lumi made a choice. While everyone else accepted the darkness, he would chase the light. His journey began with a single, trembling step into the unknown. The world he had known was gone, replaced by the landscape of menacing shapes and eerie silence. His own tiny flicker was the only guide, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to mock his courage. He navigated through treacherous glowing caves, where phosphorescent fungi cast an unsettling, alien light on jagged rocks. These caves were a maze of twists and turns, and more than once, Lumi thought he was hopelessly lost, his tiny light barely enough to see his own feet. He pressed on, the distant call his only compass. He then entered the silent forests, where the trees were ancient and their branches clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers. Here, no sound existed, not even the rustle of leaves or the whisper of wind. The silence was a heavy, oppressive force, making Lumi feel more alone than ever. He had to rely solely on his senses, feeling his way through the suffocating stillness, his heart pounding in his chest. The most dangerous part of his journey was crossing the lands of shadow, a desolate plain ruled by creatures born of darkness. These were not mere shadows, but tangible beings that recoiled from his feeble light, hissing and swiping with claws of pure night. Lumi was terrified, but he discovered something remarkable. His fear, his determination, his desperate hope, it all fed his small flame. When he was most afraid, his light would flare just a little brighter, pushing the shadow creatures back just enough for him to slip past. It was a constant battle, a dance between terror and resolve. Every step was an act of defiance against the encroaching despair. He was just one small, flickering being against a world of darkness, yet he refused to be extinguished. Deep within the darkest part of the Shadowlands, where the air was cold and heavy, Lumi stumbled upon a figure huddled in a cave. It was a creature made of shifting darkness, yet it didn't seem hostile. As Lumi cautiously approached, his light revealed a pair of sad, weary eyes. The creature introduced himself as Nox. He explained that he was once a being of pure light, a guardian of the great light itself. But pride and a lust for more power had corrupted him, causing him to lose his glow and become a creature of shadow. He had been living in exile and regret for centuries, a prisoner of his own mistakes. Intrigued and feeling a strange kinship with this fallen being, Lumi shared his own story of his small light, the mockery he faced, and his impossible quest to find the lost great light. Nox listened intently, a flicker of something ancient and forgotten stirring within him. He saw in Lumi a purity he had long since lost. He recognized the call that Lumi was following. The great light is not a treasure to be guarded by strength, Nox said, his voice a low rumble. That was my mistake. I tried to contain it, to wield its power, but it cannot be owned. It doesn't respond to might or dominance. He explained that the great light had not been extinguished, but had withdrawn, waiting for the right heart to call it back. It wasn't power that sustained it, but something far more potent, hope. Hope, kindness, and the willingness to share what little one has. Together, they realized a profound truth. The great light wasn't a fortress to be protected. It was a fire that needed to be kindled by selflessness. Guided by Nox, who knew the ancient paths, Lumi finally reached the heart of the Shadow Mountains. There, in a vast, cavernous chamber, lay the source of the great light. It was a giant, crystalline heart, but it was dark and cold, its inner fire reduced to a single, dying ember. The darkness in the chamber was absolute, pressing in on them, threatening to consume Lumi's tiny flame. Nox explained that the light needed a sacrifice not of power, but of self. It needed a spark given freely, without any expectation of reward. Looking at the dying ember, Lumi understood what he had to do. He wasn't giving up his light, he was sharing it. With all the courage he could muster, he approached the cold crystal. He closed his eyes and focused not on his weakness or his fear, but on his love for his world, his hope for a new dawn, and the kindness Nox had shown him. He poured every ounce of his being, every flicker of his spirit, into one final, generous act. He reached out and touched the crystalline heart, offering his own small glow to it completely. For a moment, Lumi's light vanished, and he was plunged into the same total darkness as everything else. He had given everything, but then a miracle happened. The dying ember within the great light flickered. It pulsed once, twice, and then erupted in a blinding, brilliant explosion of pure, warm radiance. The light surged through the chamber, down the mountains, and across the world. The darkness didn't just retreat, it evaporated, instantly replaced by a glorious, life-giving glow. And as the light returned, so did Lumi's, but it was different now. He wasn't a small, timid flicker anymore. The great light, in its gratitude, had filled him with its own essence. Lumi now shone with a brilliance that surpassed even the brightest of the elders, a steady, confident, and warm light that radiated pure hope. The world was saved. The lumens cheered as light filled their homes and hearts once more. Lumi and Nox returned not just as heroes, but as bearers of a new wisdom. The world learned that day that true strength isn't about how brightly you can shine for yourself, but about your willingness to share your light with others. And Lumi, the smallest lumen who was once the subject of mockery, became a living legend, a constant reminder that even the tiniest spark of hope, when given freely, has the power to end the longest, darkest night. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little light in their day. We'll see you in the next story.